Most people think of Africa, they think of lions, zebras, giraffes, and elephants. But to me, it's the people. You'll not find a more hospitable people on the earth, I believe, than what you find in Kenya.
Hello, everybody. This is Josh Shiflett coming to you live from Harrisonburg, Virginia. And with me today, we have Brother Jeremy Sipe, all the way from Kenya, Africa. So Brother Jeremy and I go way back. We're actually a family, and excited to have Brother Jeremy on for what we're going to call our first podcast. I think the nickname has been mentioned, the Project Holy Podcast, but we're still working through that. So we're getting Brother Jeremy on today to talk about Project Holy Nations, the work he's doing there in Africa. And there's been some interest in having a group of people to join him there. Lots of work to do, and just very excited about what the future holds. So Brother Jeremy, why don't you just start out first of all and talk to us a little bit about yourself, the Project Holy Nation mission, and what it's looking like for you there right now.
First of all, let me say that I'm glad to be here and thankful for the opportunity to share the work here in this format, and very excited about utilizing this format. But we've been doing mission work since I've been doing mission work since 1999. My first mission trip was in Panama with Sister Gail Myers and a team to the Kuna Indians there on the San Blas Islands off the coast of Panama. And from that time, my heart has been in missions. My wife and I lived in Tanzania, Africa from 2002 to 2004 in an orphanage there. And that really implanted Africa in my heart. We've done various other short-term trips. We worked a lot in Belize a few years ago and other countries, but we moved to Kenya full-time in 2019. We've been here since then. And the mission of Project Holy Nations and our mission is to work through relief, rehabilitation, and development projects to bring the gospel and change to those that are suffering, to those that need it the most. And with our new outreach in Turkana that some have heard about, we have an opportunity to carry the gospel to those that have never heard it before. And thinking of this is what I feel like I was born for, what this mission was born for. It breaks my heart. So many times we hear that people in the States are splitting churches or leaving churches over minor doctrinal issues or opinions. And there are souls here that don't even have access to a Bible and have never heard the basic gospel of Jesus Christ. So our mission is to present that gospel and to get God's word into their hands.
One of the messages that come to mind every time we talk about mission work is Brother Brent Gabbard when he preached, "What part of go don't you understand?"
Amen.
I'm sure as parents, we've probably all heard our parents say, "What part of no don't you understand?" And that was basically the premise of Brother Gabbard's message of what part of go don't you understand? So such a commendable effort and vitally important to spreading the furtherance of the gospel. So very appreciative, Brother Jeremy, for what you and Sister Belita and Brother Tom are doing there. So when did you officially move to Africa?
I've resigned my full-time job in the States. I'd worked there for 20 years. I resigned that in December 2018. And I officially moved to Kenya in February 2019. And Kenya is what is known as the Sub-Saharan Africa region, or East, is part of East Africa. We border Somalia, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania, and on the east, of course, the Indian Ocean. But I'm officially moved here in 2019, and I was here for several months preparing things, getting a house, getting a vehicle, all of those things in order until my family would join me in June of that year. And our main work here is located in Eldoret. It's a western town of Kenya, about a 4-hour drive from the border of Uganda. And within Eldoret is a slum village called Kingongo, which is where most of our work takes place. And we didn't actually get to Eldoret until I guess I arrived in Eldoret around April of 2019. And from that time, the doors began to open and God began to move.
So recently, Brother Jeremy, you put out a social media post, and the ask wasn't for any monetary donation or anything of that regard. It was more
Mhm.
along of looking for willing souls to come and help uh, with the work that you've got going on there. I believe this is when you were able to go to Turkana. Can you talk to us a little bit about that experience and what it is that you're looking for in the volunteers to come over there and help you all?
Well, for an upcoming trip, really what we would do kind of depends on the type of team that comes. We definitely need young people with a desire to work with children and possibly hold kids crusades in Kingongo, but also work with children in Turkana. We also need older people who are willing to work with pastors and hold a pastor seminar, as well as teach people in the Turkana region that don't have access to the Word of God, and even work with leadership of local churches there and here to strengthen the churches. We'd love to have a medical mission out in Turkana. It's desperately needed. I mean, the people there have no access to hospitals, no access to schools. They have no schools. They don't even have a market. They live very much in survival mode and no access to medical supplies. But I know that I'm not equipped to do a medical mission. So if we have those with medical experience, we'd love to accommodate them. We would love to have a medical mission. We could use builders. We eventually want to build a school out there that could double as a base of operations and as a church. But we could also use some building work here at our community center, some electrical work, so some basic electrical stuff. We could just use some workers that would be willing to spread some paint and do some small things, some basic needs around Kingongo and maybe help in the Turkana region as well. We definitely want to plan, if a group comes, to spend a few days with the Turkana people preaching and teaching the pastoralists there and the people of that region. But a lot of our focus also would be right here in Kingongo, working with the community that God has given us here. There's a lot to do, and we can't accomplish but so much in a short period, especially if a group comes, for 10 days or 2 weeks. But having some extra hands and some fellowship and encouragement from a team would mean the world to us and the people here. Turkana is a wide open door for the gospel, but for those coming, it is a desert area. It's extremely hot, extremely harsh conditions. About 4 days there is about all you can take, and you'll be ready to come back to Eldoret. But a lot of our work is here, so we really want to focus here as well.
And I believe you've mentioned there's multiple countries there around the refugee camp. Can you tell us
Mhm.
which countries they are? And you may have already mentioned this, but I believe this is the world's largest refugee camp. Is that correct?
Yes, Kakuma right now is the world's largest refugee camp. I think there's around 180,000 refugees there from Somalia, from South Sudan, from Burundi, from Uganda, from all around the surrounding countries, but really places all over the world. We were able to go in there. We have access with a pastor there who has a church within the refugee camp, and there's so many different cultures and so many different countries represented, and so many of them from such harsh countries that also have never heard the gospel. They've never been exposed to the gospel, and even many to have never been exposed to love and kindness. They're coming out of countries that are riddled with civil war. Ethiopia right now, with what's going on there right now, and there's refugees there from Ethiopia as well, and just all over. The Kakuma refugee camp was started several years ago, but some may have heard of the story of the Lost Boys of Sudan, and that's really what made it popular. And of course, all of those have been rehomed now, and many went to the United States. But it's just grown from that time substantially to somewhere around 180,000 people now.
So I know you may have already touched on this earlier, but for people who are interested, what specific needs are there in Kenya? What work should people expect to do if they decide to join us? I know some of our conversation was geared towards maybe the Turkana area where you did ask for volunteers, uh, but there locally in the village that you're in there in Eldoret, what would a day look like maybe for individuals who are looking to join you there next year?
Well, there are many needs, even here in Eldoret. There are very many needs. We will be doing feeding programs with street families. We'll be going to those living in the trash heaps. So if you come, bring good boots, bring work clothes. But we'll be holding Bible classes. We'll do some work on the community center itself. We'll be walking the village every day, be in church in the evenings with pastors or with kids, depending on who all comes. We'll be working throughout the days and getting dirty and getting sweaty, but we will also have a lot of fun. It'll be a great time. I will say this, working here, even in a short time, you'll develop some great friendships. Be ready to get your hands dirty and see some incredible things, but also be ready to have the experience of a lifetime. And I've done mission work in many countries, but I've always said there is no place like working in Africa. Sure, it's a lot harder, it's a lot farther, it's a lot more expensive than many other places that you can go. And they say the dust of Africa is impossible to wash off, but it is life changing. And I believe if you come once and experience it, I firmly believe you'll be planning another trip in the future. And if this is possibly the only trip that you can make, don't think it's all going to be work, work, work. We're going to have enjoyable times. We'll plan to see some wildlife while you're here, and I think you'll have a great and memorable experience.
When we've talked before, I believe one of the uh, items that you've discussed is potentially doing a kids crusade. I know that that's been
Mhm.
something that you all have had great success with in the past in other regions, other countries. Is that something that would still be on the table? And what would that look like? How many kids are there? What would the outreach be for a kids crusade there in Eldoret?
Um, Here in Eldoret in King Ongo is a village of about 10,000 people, which is not a large town, but that's a lot of people in a confined area in what they consider a slum village. And there's a lot of kids. I mean, if we have a regular program for them, which we're having their Christmas coming up on the 20th of November, and we're expecting about 300 to 400 kids. And they'll be out of school at that time. If we have a kids crusade in June, kids will be in school, but if we do it in the evenings, they will still come and it will be a packed out place. It's definitely needed. They love it. They really get involved. There can be some challenges as far as the language barrier, translations and all of that. But they will get involved. They will get excited, and I know they're thrilled to have somebody come over and do that for them.
So, Brother Jeremy, tell us a little bit about your home church.
Well, our home church here in Kenya is Pentecostal Gospel Church. That's with Pastor Wilson. That's what we call our home church here in Kenya. But of course, our home church in the States is Bible Holiness Church there in Elkton, Virginia. And our pastor, Brother Brent Gabbard, who's been such a tremendous help to us. I got saved in that church in 1999, March 21st. And I'm coming up on, I think, 23 years very soon. But got saved right there in the second pew, there in the middle section of the church. And God's worked tremendously through that church to help us. They support us monthly, but not only that, have helped us tremendously through the year and through the years, supporting this work over here, and have always been faithful to check on us and pray for us. And we couldn't ask for a better home church, couldn't ask for a better pastor. Brother Brent Gabbard has been great to us. I got nothing but good to say about him. He's a great guy. And we love him and his family, and we love the church dearly.
For those of you that know me, you'll know that Bible Holiness Church is my home church again. I recently moved out of the area to North Carolina for work, and I'm back home and just delighted to be back and being able to help the church in an outreach setting, working with Brother Jeremy, trying to coordinate this. If anybody has any questions or want to get added to the list of potential uh, volunteers to go to Africa next year, please don't hesitate to let me know. I can add you to the list. I've got a running list over here that I'm trying to keep track of. Your name and email, phone number, really, that's all we need. We would really love for people to join us to help further the kingdom of God. While we've been talking here, the verse has just kind of gone over and over in my mind about truly the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. I'm sure I've probably butchered that and cut it down, truncated it a little bit, but the gist is still the same. There's a great work to do domestically, foreign, many different places, and I know I speak on behalf of the church that Bible Holiness Church is very proud of Brother Jeremy, Sister Belita, Brother Tom, the work they're doing there. It's a commendable effort, and we're very proud of them. Okay, so let's talk about preparation. We've had
Mhm.
various individuals who have reached out asking about information. So, what should people start to do now if they're interested, if they'd like to join us for this upcoming trip? I believe that there's this will be a two-part question, but I believe that I've heard that there may be some issues with passports here in the US, and any other logistical things that that may come to mind that we should look at before planning.
Sure. The first step, of course, is to make sure you have a passport. And if you have one, it has to be good for at least 6 months beyond the trip. Not good for 6 months from now, from when the trip is scheduled, whether it's June or whenever, 6 months beyond that time, or they won't even let you board the plane. Passport renewals, from what we have heard, are taking a bit of time lately. Thomas's is due for renewal in February. We come home in December, but obviously February is not 6 months out, so we have to try to figure out an expedited way to get his passport. And we were told by one agency that it could run upwards of $1,000 to expedite the passport. So while you have time now, go ahead and apply for it. If you're interested, even if you don't make it on this trip, it's good for 10 years. You can make the next trip, or you can do other traveling. If you're an adult, it's good for 10 years. If you're a minor, it's good for 5 years. But go ahead and apply now if you have interest in this trip. It's something Americans should have that want to travel the world. And the next step beyond the passport that I know people do not want to hear is the dreaded vaccine. I know they don't want to hear that word, but it is mandatory to enter and depart Kenya as of January next year. And as of this month, the US is requiring it for all non US citizens coming into America. And they're also putting stricter measures even for US citizens that are traveling into the US without the vaccine. They're limiting the amount of time for them to have a PCR test done before they fly. So if you're really considering coming over here, really considering working overseas, bite the bullet and get it. I mean, it's unfortunately we're in a world where if you're going to want to travel and work for the Lord overseas, you're just going to have it.
I believe from what I've read, there's a visa that's required to enter the country of Kenya. I'm accustomed to visas from the India perspective. I've traveled there numerous times for work. So is a visa required for Kenya? And if it is, what does that process look like as well?
Yes, you will need a visa for entry into Kenya. It used to be able to get it at the airport on arrival, but they have stopped that since COVID. It is a pretty easy process. You can apply online. It's sent to your email, usually within 3 business days. Some people have it in 20 minutes. Some have to wait a little bit longer. The e-visa, last time I checked, was about $55. We come in on a work visa, so I've not checked that in a while, but last I heard was about 55 US dollars to get the e-visa. It's basically a tourist visa. It's good for 3 months. So when you buy your tickets, when the tickets are paid for and you've got them in your name, go ahead and apply for the visa. You don't want to go to the airport and not have the visa. They will not let you board the plane. Also required is a QR code application. This is done through the Ministry of Health. It's what they call a passenger locator form. It's submitting your phone number and some small details regarding COVID so that they can text you and send you messages while you're in the country. It's for them to track you moving in and out of the country. You'll have to have that. And that, again, is a very easy process. It's all done online. That is free. You just have to go onto their website, fill out the information, and it emails you a QR code, and you print that out and bring it to the airport, and they'll scan it when you arrive in Kenya. With the vaccine, with the visa and the QR code, you still need a negative PCR COVID test. And that COVID test has to be done within 72 hours of arriving in Kenya. So you have to have it tested. The test has to be done 72 hours before arriving to Kenya. If you land here and it's been 73 hours, they will put you on a plane and send you home at your expense. We have a company in Northern Virginia who does them. They're pricey. They're around $225. If you have someone cheaper that can do it, that's fine, but it has to be done in that 72-hour window of your arrival in Kenya. It can't be a rapid test. It has to be a PCR test, and it has to be presented at check-in with the airline. You have to have the visa, the vaccine, the PCR test, the QR code. All of these have to be printed. They will check for them to be printed at the check-in of the airline, or they will not let you board your flight. It is a hassle, but this is the new normal with international travel.
So what would the time zone difference be for the folks there in Kenya, the folks back in America, and what would the time frame look like for people coming over there?
The time frame for coming, I think we're looking somewhere next year around May or June, something like that. The time difference right now, we are currently 8 hours ahead of those of you that are living in Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. We were 7 hours, but when daylight savings time ended, you changed. We didn't. We stayed the same, but it just changed an extra hour. We are in East Africa time, but I will say it takes a few days for your body to get adjusted to that time change. And not only when you get here, the time change affects you. Here in Eldoret, we're situated in the western region of the Great Rift Valley, and we're at about 7,800 feet in elevation. It takes your body a few days to get adjusted to the altitude. Just breathing, you get kind of dizzy and winded very easily for the first few days. But a couple of days getting adjusted. But that's one reason we say you can't do this trip in a week. It takes a couple of days to get here, a few days to get adjusted, and then you turn around and go home and you got to do the same thing over again.
And you're looking at a 10 to 14 day trip for most people, right? And really, when we say 10 to 14 days, it's not really 10 to 14 days working there. You're
Right.
losing a day traveling at least, right? And then
Yeah.
how far is it from the airport to Eldoret? What's the logistics look like there? Just to put in perspective, when you ask for 10 to 14 days, what does that really look like in terms of the actual work that's going on there?
When you leave the US, it's usually between 22 to 24 hours, sometimes even upwards of 30 some hours, depending on the layovers to get to Kenya. Most of the time you arrive in Kenya late at night. So you have to get a hotel room in Nairobi and then fly to Eldoret the next day. Now it's only a 1 hour flight to Eldoret and we could be here early in the morning. But with the time change and the altitude adjustment, most people are worn out. They're feeling like their hours or days are off and everything's mixed up. So it takes a day to basically get adjusted, get recovered. And we can go and start working that first day for those that are ready, but most people are going to want to take some time to get adjusted. And there again, if we go to Turkana, if we drive there, it's a day to get there. If we fly the way the flights land, you're losing a half a day because the flight's in the afternoon, and then you have to drive from the nearest airport, which is several hours away, still from Kakuma. You lose a whole day in travel either way. So we really only get a couple working days in Turkana and 2 days of travel. And then when everything is said and done, you got to do the same thing to go home. It's 24 hours getting, you got to fly to Nairobi, prepare for your flight. If it's maybe the same day or the next day, and 24 hours, estimate it to get back home. So you're losing a lot of time just in travel.
So, Brother Jeremy, we're both kindred spirits. We both like to laugh and have a good time. So, I hear you're the king of dad jokes. I've heard that from various people here. I probably know that for myself. So, I want you to tell us your funniest dad joke, so people can get a sense of your sense of humor.
It's a bit of a different sense of humor, I guess, and most people will probably cringe at this joke. It is my all-time favorite. I use it in every setting when someone hasn't heard it. But you have to remember, it's a joke. So, what's green and has wheels?
You tell me.
It's grass. I was joking about the wheels.
I guess soon to be 16-year-old son just absolutely loves that joke, right?
He hates it.
Okay, so one last thing before we go, for people who don't want to join, I know that you have not asked for monetary donations, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least put this plug in there. Brother Jeremy did not ask me to do this, but if people wanted to give to the work there that you're doing in Africa, tell people how they could give, or if they have other, if there's other means or mechanisms that they can support in different ways. Tell people how they can do that.
Well, the easiest way financially to give would be through our website, just www.projectholynations.com. You can donate right there on the homepage through PayPal, or you can scroll to the bottom. You'll see our mailing address, just a P.O. box we keep there in the States. You can send a check that way, or my phone number is on there. You can contact me if there's other ways that you'd like to give. But really, we just like to ask for prayers. Just commit to praying for us. Some may never come to Kenya. They may never step outside of America, but they're connected with us because they pray for us, and we appreciate that. And that means more to us than anything, to know that we have prayer partners across the world that are praying for this work. When most people think of Africa, they think of lions, zebras, giraffes, and elephants. But to me, it's the people. You'll not find a more hospitable people on the earth, I believe, than what you find in Kenya. There's always exceptions, of course, but the majority of people here welcome you with great hospitality, open hearts, and they become lifelong friends. The first word you'll hear when you land in Kenya is karibu, which is Swahili for welcome. They welcome you into their hearts. You'll forever be connected with them. The Turkana will probably sacrifice a goat for you. The Kikuyu will open their homes for you to have dinner. The Luya will provide their chickens. But Africa will become a part of you. So I just want to be the first for those that are coming to say, Karibu Kenya, welcome to Kenya. We can't wait to see you here.
Enyi ndugu zangu, sikiza neno jipya la